whatmatters.com. I really encourage it. There's a getting started series that works really well. But, a lot of folks lean on OKRs because of a few reasons. A lot of times it's trying to get focus, right? What are we working on? What do we need to be doing next? Or alignment across an organization. I know for many of you, if your teams are just 6 people, alignment can still be hard, right? 6 people getting on the same page sometimes can be as hard as getting 30. But then imagine when your company is 150 people, how do you get them all working together? And this system really does help with that. It's a way to get collective commitment. It's a way to get people to track the goals that they set. And then ultimately, if things work really well, to be able to stretch as well for what you want to get done. So to define objectives and key results, OKRs, objectives are the what we're trying to accomplish, right? What are you trying to do as a team? And you're trying to write that objective as in a way that's significant, it's concrete, it's action-oriented and inspirational, right? This objective, in the case of healthcare.gov, fix this website for the American people, right? Concrete, action-oriented, and very inspirational to us. You pair it with key results, and that's the how you're going to accomplish it. And those are the descriptive bullets, right? A few of them that are specific and time-bound, aggressive yet realistic, but measurable and verifiable as well too. And these are just some examples. I'm not going to go into them, but you can see that middle one is the healthcare.gov one, right? It's super concrete and action-oriented as the bold piece, and then truly measurable, right? 7 out of 10, 1 second, 1% error rate, 99% uptime. I think for most folks that see this, because you all probably have systems that you're building, you're like, that doesn't seem too hard. But you got to remember, for that first metric when we said it, it was 6 over 100,000, right? That was the, basically no one was able to get through. That 1 millisecond response time was 12 seconds on average. That error rate was 10%. And then the uptime was 48%, which means we weren't up for half a day. So are you really up or down, right? So for us here, this was like our marching orders for the month ahead. But the thing that I want to share with you has been the past now, I think 3 years of learnings, right? Putting the book out there, putting the website, and spending a lot of time with very large teams, right? Public companies to a lot of startups as well too. And here are a set along the way that I think will be helpful and actually applicable to both sides of both sizes, and scales of companies. The first one to take with you is that you lead with your OKRs and you manage with KPIs, because we always get this question of like, what is the difference? How do I use them? Your OKRs are meant to capture what's the most important things you're trying to get done in your company. But that doesn't mean it's the place where you capture your task lists, your roadmaps, the things you put in Jira or product board. Those are there to really help you manage. But when the leadership part, this is what the tool you use to help describe that. And there's 2 great stories of, if folks know Allbirds, the shoe brand, Joey, one of the co-founders there, does a great job of explaining. They have their Kiwis, keep improving with intent. That's what they call their OKRs, by the way, Kiwis, keep improving with intent. They're kind of a New Zealand inspired company. And then they have their breathe list, which is their KPIs. And every meeting you go into, you focus on your OKRs first, and then the KPIs and all those other lists next. The other thing to do is you need to clearly define what success looks like. That's the key result part. And the 3 categories of them are this. If you've read the book, Measure What Matters, we only talk about the first 2, committed and aspirational. Remember when Andy Grove came up with this system, I believe there was only the aspirational OKR. The Googler said, well, some OKRs we set, we want them to be really hard to achieve, right? And so they have to be a little bit more aspirational. But some OKRs, we got to get 100%, right? Sometimes it's sales targets, sometimes it's uptime. These things, if I set a target of 99% uptime and we get 70, that's not a success, it's a failure. And so committed goals are the ones that we have to meet. And a way you can do this so easily is when you write that key result or that OKR, just put like a C next to it, right? This one we're committing, team, that we're gonna get across the finish line, right? The 100% is what we're aiming for. An aspirational goal is drawing the finish line a little bit farther out and maybe hard to get to, right? We don't know, we're gonna push the team here. And you may have heard the saying that 70% is success in this world. What that really means is not 70% of every key result you write, but in the course of a year, some of these key results some of these OKRs you knock out of the park and get like 140% achievement. Some of them you aim low and get 60, but on average, you're getting 70% there as you look across all of them. But with these two, we spent a lot of time with startups that said, well, OKRs are still not for me, right? Like they are pointing us in a direction. We don't necessarily know what we're building yet. We don't have product market fit. And so what we've done with both a set of startups as well as research groups and big companies is that there's a different way to craft an OKR, and it's in the learning lens, right? So if the first two are for committed and aspirational, what do we want to get done in the next 90 days? The learning OKRs, what are we trying to learn in the next 90 days? What do we need to learn, right? The hypothesis that says that we should be doing what we're doing, right? If we're thinking about entering the small, medium business market, right? Let's craft an OKR that tells us, yes, we're actually doing that well before creating an OKR that commits us to that direction. And so I hope this third type of OKR, this learning one, can really help some of the companies part of Station F that are still in that discovery state, right? And the neat part about this is, you can set up a lot of these OKRs to learn different things to help you test your hypotheses before you go after them. This is an important lesson as well too. You are the best judge of what a great OKR is. It is an art and a science. You can have many types of key results. Some of them are inputs, right? The things you do. Some of them are outputs, the results of those. And then some of them are outcomes, the things that have changed. If you look online, the consensus is try to make your OKRs as outcome focused as possible, because that's the really hard thing to measure. But it's okay if you have them on the outputs or just the inputs, right? Jeff Bezos will say, I only manage my business on inputs because those are the things that I control. Andy Grove would say, well, the outputs are what help you understand if your business is doing what you committed it to do. But I think today the outcomes are perhaps the most important, right? And maybe if I give you an example, an input would be, the things you control, right? This is the features you add, the performance of things. The outputs are, the revenue numbers, number of users, but the outcomes are probably the return rate, the net promoter score, the retention, right? The harder thing to measure. And when you craft an OKR, pick inputs, outputs, and outcomes. And then the last two pieces are really quick. The OKR should match your pace. If you look at most of our content online, we say it's quarterly, but most of you move so fast that it shouldn't be quarterly, right? It should be something like maybe 6 weeks or a month, or really up to you. And the flip also holds true for matching your pace. For some organizations, they don't think in quarters, they think in trimesters, right? Schools or other organizations, or, for some sports teams that have adopted OKRs, they've made it how their season works. And, the big piece to take away is that it takes a team to make any of these things happen. So don't just craft these OKRs alone. I always find that I get the most joy out of OKRs when I share them with someone else, because I know mine aren't perfect. And so getting that feedback really, really is super important. So lead with OKRs, define that success. You're the judge, match your pace. It's so important to do that, because if OKRs feel like they're just dragging you behind or they're too aggressive, you get to change them. And it takes a team, not just the CEO, not just the COO, but everyone to really make this a success. Those are my slides, Roxanne. I hope they were helpful.